here's the second part to why we need to think about what's happening out here, what the police are really doing, what the politicians are really doing. Now, when I say abuse of power, I'm telling you, when they violate your rights, when they touch you, when they bother you, surveil you, harass you, any of that, it's a violation of your rights. Start learning your rights. Start listening to me. I know I'm a female and you males don't want to listen, but that's okay. We all know that males are retarded. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to share more information with you on the registered attorney and his view, which I don't have to register because, you see, that's my immunity and I have the right to it. But nobody has the right to abuse you physically, mentally, emotionally, or any way. So with that being said, let's share some more.
I think that's a significant check against the possibility of an excessive number of lawsuits. I should also say, from my own perspective of handling these cases and also doing personal injury work, cases against police are hard enough to win even if there is no qualifying. It's
unless you have proof.
To suing a physician in a medical malpractice case.
Bree, we have all the proof.
Why? Well, in part because the public, they favor the police, okay? Police
Maybe you won't after this.
We're taught from, from childhood that they are trustworthy and
They're not.
deserve our respect, as with doctors. So in front of a jury, a police officer is going to have that built-in respect. And that will be a check, I think, against the success of a potential lawsuit.
With that being said, let me give you some examples. Skip Gleason used to be a teacher at Garrett Skank in Anson, Maine. He openly told the investigator, Carl Gottardi, Somerset County Sheriff's Department in Maine, Skowhegan, that he touched a boy. Okay, so there's a teacher. Then you got the quack doctor in Florida when I had a leg injury that I had to see him for, and he wanted to talk to me about how many births he gave, vaginal births, like what did that have to do with my leg injury. Okay, and then you have Morgan and Morgan, who sent an investigator for my accident to me, and I have a witness to this. We met at a restaurant, and he was more interested in talking about who I was and my beauty, and how he couldn't wait to see me on the back of his motorcycle. Okay? And then you've got Jeffrey Hare, who has been noted by Department of Children and Family Services in Newport, Vermont, to have been counseled for abusing my daughter. Not once, not twice, several times over. Then you've got the police that have been known recently to be abusing their power, as well as their wives, their boyfriends, and whoever else in the community that they could, like Jeffrey Noyce when he came up to me in February of 2021, and I reported it. He threatened my life. But everybody wanted to hide the cameras and the surveillance. Then you got Craig Gillette, who sells cars to, like, the car that he sold to my daughter, and the A-frame broke. Or did it just drop because somebody tried to kill her back then? And she bounced one end over the other. But she made it. And she's still alive to tell about it. Isn't that right, Brie? So there's some more role players. Then you've got Joel Cope. Is he the head of eugenics? Okay, for the state of Vermont. And so why is it that Teddy Miller ran out of film when my home got invaded back in 2007? And then the frivolous act of Amy LeClaire with Vermont State Police Derby Barracks writing in her statement that she couldn't contact me, that I had abandoned my kids. And Jason Letourneau, who is with Westminster office now, who made it in high ranking for all his lies, just like Amy LeClaire, okay, and all of them that have made it up the chain. It's because they have done frivolous acts. Yay, brotherhood, right? Until they get caught. So, with that being said, Jeffrey Noyce, back in 2009, stole the computer that my attorney requested information from about the situations I just told you about, my home being invaded, my children being frivolously taken. And I say Jeffrey Noyes took it because that's my belief. He was under investigation. What happened to that investigation? Okay. So now I'm going to give you some more proof and fact. And I'm just letting you know that I'm utilizing this person that's talking. Thank you, Vermont.
There is no evidence that abolishing qualified immunity would jeopardize public safety. It hasn't happened in Colorado or Connecticut, which is abolished qualified immunity, nor New Mexico. The civil justice system should be balanced between the claimant and the defendant, in this case, the police or police department. Police brutality cases, in police brutality cases, that balance, if you have qualified immunity, is fictitious. Police and police departments who employ them have a huge unfair advantage in litigation because of qualified immunity, to the detriment of the victim and their families. And this
Essex
is
County
wrong.
Sheriff's Department.
It's morally wrong.
Jeffrey
It's
Noyes.
legally wrong. And abolishing qualified immunity and adopting S254 would eliminate that.
Vermont State Police.
If someone is
And
injured
the
due
politician.
to someone else,
TJ
to
Donovan.
the negligence of another, the wrongdoer is held accountable through the civil justice system.
Mm-hmm. Vermont
If the
State Police.
doctor makes a mistake, the
Bickford's,
doctor
Maurice.
can be
Yates.
sued and held accountable by a jury. It's hard to do, but if the injury is aggravated enough
Noyes.
and there's liability, the doctor will be held accountable. Why should it be any different when an officer harms a citizen, whether physically through brutality or a violation of constitutional rights by illegally stopping someone, illegally searching them, and
Whoa, Vermont State Police again.
which I'm sure you're familiar with, seizing the car and then forcing the person, just leaving them on their own. There is a screening process that lawyers engage in evaluating whether
Lake,
to take
Florida
a
did that.
case
too.
on a contingent fee, which is how most lawyers would take police misconduct cases. Is the
Getting better,
client
Vermont.
believable?
Remember, you still have charges against
Am
me
I
that are
willing
frivolous.
do I
and
feel
false.
that the case is strong enough to invest in at least one expert, for example, a police misconduct expert, former police officer? Am I willing to risk the possibility of a verdict for the defendant if this bill were to be passed and you've got the loser pays provision? All of those factors make these types of cases very, very difficult to litigate and to win. Qualified immunity, abolishing qualified immunity, will encourage lawyers to represent citizens harmed by the police, whether physically or by egregious violation of Vermont or United States constitutional rights. And it will provide justice by allowing police misconduct cases to be heard by juries, which is something that David Slay pointed out, rather than dying in the crib, so to speak, of being unfairly dismissed before trial by a judge without any discovery to find out the merits of the case. I think it's also going to increase trust in government and the police, because egregious behavior by the police and by the departments employing them will be they will be held to account. I'm sorry, Senator, you were about to say something. I interrupted you.
No,
Okay.
I'm in a bit of pain, Brad, from some.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's not your fault. And I was just sighing from that.
We don't need to
There
listen to
are
her talk shit.
there's an attorney's fees provision for this successful claimant in the bill, which I think is a very good thing. It's not a novel approach because, of course, under the Federal Civil Rights Statute 42 United States Code, Section 1983, there is a
Violation of due
attorney's
process.
fees component, but it's not automatic. The judge has to find that there's substantial merit to the lawsuit, or that you substantially succeeded, you have to have an expert justify the attorney's fees and expenses. And then
But
there
see,
has to be
these
a hearing in front of a judge.
judges
to
are
determine
experts
whether
in
an
being
award of
frivolous
attorney's
as well.
fees and expenses is warranted. I went through that in a successful
Hence the fact
case
that Judge
I had.
Thomas is being under
And Judge Billings,
investigation,
who was federal judge at
his
the
wife.
time, did cut down some of my
And
attorney's
look at the
fees
guy
and
that ran for
expenses.
governor.
So it's not an automatic ticket to get your attorney's fees and expenses, even if you win. Plus, under Vermont law, there are attorney's fees awarded in other cases where Senate Judiciary and the legislature as a whole
Don't forget, I told
found,
you, a hitman called me 4 times because I filed
positive
lawsuits.
social benefit to encourage the filing of
Barnett
lawsuits.
Woman sues. Look it
Particularly,
up.
I'm thinking of the
I was running for
construction
state rep.
statute. Because otherwise,
State rep
attorneys
22
would
is what that picture
be
says.
willing to help
But you
homeowners
see,
and take those cases on a contingency basis.
the
Now,
fact
we
is the
heard
state of Vermont has
from
continued
Sheriff
to defame
Marcoux
me.
and others that abolishing qualified immunity is going to discourage qualified applicants for police positions because they're afraid of being sued. That's a fiction. There's no correlation that's been demonstrated at all
I
between
like this guy
the difficulty in filling
and
police
what he has to
openings
say. And for me to say
currently,
that,
abolishing qualified
that means a
immunity.
lot. So pay attention.
Manchester recently had 3 officers leave, and just as quickly they hired 2 new officers to fill those positions. If an officer doesn't want to continue in law enforcement because he or she is afraid of being sued, then or being held accountable for their actions, is this somebody that we really want carrying a badge and a gun and driving a patrol car? I guess taking...
Let me stop that right there. Do you really want police officers out here that are willing to violate your rights on every level? Do you really want officers out here that are bullying and harassing and don't even know the Constitution? Do you really think that we should have these officers with no immunity? That means they're not held accountable for their wrong actions. They're not accountable for the abuse that they commit against anybody. Okay? So, continue on. Keep listening.
That argument by the police that it's abolishing qualified immunity would discourage retention of police officers or hiring of police officers. That's really kind of code for saying, well, we should be allowed to relax the standards for hiring police officers. And there is an issue in Vermont about police departments hiring rejects from other departments. Most recently in Woodstock, an officer who was fired by another department was hired by Woodstock. It's happened in Rutland, it's happened in Ludlow, and it's happened in Woodstock. Senator White raised some concerns at the last hearing about insurance issues and indemnification. And this gets into a kind of a broad issue of, well, who's going to bear the loss? Under current law, qualified immunity, since it basically bars citizens from the courthouse door seeking redress against the police, especially the poor and people of color who are most often victimized by the police misconduct, it takes away the remedy for the harms that they've suffered. Stephen Gillum from the Windham County NAACP, he asked you last week, what about the people? He mentioned about how people having bad experiences with police officers suffer post-traumatic stress disorder, among other harms.
Whoa, let's
which also affects
stop him right there.
Also affects their faith.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Well, that's what happens. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. So when the police want to fuck with somebody with post-traumatic stress disorder, we all know that it's a fight or flight kind of situation, right? So knowing that, I make everybody aware at all given times that I have PTSD, and they all know it. So therefore, they have no business fucking with me, Bree, Jacoby, or anybody. Okay? Not that they do anyways, but right there, this officer just told you, well, officer, he's actually an attorney, but he did just tell you folks that, yeah, what has happened is really not cool. Okay? So knowing that Quincy O'Gorman is dead, after being chased by Vermont State Police in Jeffrey Noyce in 2017, and he wasn't found until 4 days later, and they say that it's still under investigation. I want answers. I want to know why Quincy's dead. He had a father that passed away. He had been in and out of state custody and all kinds of bullshit throughout his teen years, and I know this, and everybody else knows it too. So knowing that he had been on medications, he had been fucked up with the system, through the system, and he's dead. They tried to kill me. They've tried to kill Bree. And how many others are they doing this to? Why? Well, we're going to find that out as well. But I want you to continue to listen. I'm going to shorten this one again because it's now almost 16 minutes into it. And I know you all have a hard time following. Or most of you anyways. So with that being said, time consuming, I understand. But I'm grateful for you watching, and I hope you're sharing and enjoying the fact that somebody's out here standing up for you, me, and all of our rights. God bless.